Hello, welcome to CGTN. This is our special coverage on the Belt and Road Forum for International Cooperation here in Beijing. I'm Pendon.
And I'm Beatrice Marshall.
Friday marks the opening of the second forum for the initiative. Chinese President Xi Jinping will deliver a keynote speech at the opening ceremony very soon, and we will bring you live coverage of the event at the National Convention Center.
Now, 5,000 people will attend that event. That includes 37 heads of state and government and representatives from the World Bank and the International Monetary Fund. In total, 150 countries and 90 international organizations will be represented.
And that's right. And for more insight into this grand gathering, we're joined in the studio by Professor Zhao Zhongxiu, President of Shandong University of Finance and Economics, and Mr. Amedeo Scarpa, Trade Commissioner of the Italian Trade Agency Beijing office. But before we talk to you gentlemen, let's take a quick look at the agenda of the event. And all those activities include a high-level meeting to follow the opening ceremony later on Friday. And on Saturday, President Xi Jinping will host a roundtable with the attending 37 heads of state and government, along with UN Secretary General, the Managing Director of the IMF, and high-level representatives from 6 other countries and the European Union. After that, President Xi Jinping will brief the media on the forum's activities.
Now, let's check in with our reporter, Sui Huiyao. He's at the National Convention Center where President Xi Jinping will address the opening of the forum. Hello, Huiyao. Give us an overview of this year's gathering. Well, Hui Huiyao will join us a little later on in the program if we can. But the Belt and Road Initiative is supported by both governments and private companies. And the forum has held a CEO conference for the business community. Well, CGTN's Xia Cheng reports.
It's the first CEO conference for China's Belt and Road Forum. Some 900 business leaders are coming to show their commitment to the initiative.
Rio Tinto and China have a long relationship, 100 years of trading. We have a huge customer base here in China. 45% of our revenue comes from China. We also have a huge procurement opportunity in China. But our relationship isn't just about a transaction. We want a deeper relationship with our Chinese partners, which was why we started with Tsinghua University, the Sustainable Development Center, with a big focus on climate change.
We have a 2023 strategy, development strategy. According with this strategy, we are going to create new international hub in big Siberian town Krasnoyarsk, and put there some fleet. First of all, medium-range fleet. So just to give the more opportunity for Chinese passengers to travel not via Moscow or via Krasnoyarsk to many Siberian cities.
Italy is the first G7 member country to join the Belt and Road, but that's mainly for the infrastructure investment opportunities. As for the digital Silk Road, the list of members remains short, and China continues to work to get more power players on board. And it is critical to do so for the sake of global digital governance.
If we think about the fact that the digital economy has very strong economic scale, and the fact that China and the G7, in particular the US, are the largest digital economy in the world, then by definition they will have the most influence on the development of future digital economy and the global cyberspace community. So therefore it is not only should or would, I think it is almost a must that for G7, in particular for the US, the largest digital economy in the world, to be part of this global conversation.
What's holding investors back is a lack of trust in the Belt and Road. That includes concerns over debt, the environment, and local economic impact. What's the best way to win the hearts of countries and big companies?
To me, the most important thing to clarify all these, let's say, misconceptions is to through successful projects. Through these successful examples, people will see First, it really brings convenience and benefits to the local community, and secondly, it's affordable. It's not just some exhibition projects. It's a real thing. And finally, when it is being used and being popular in the market, it generates very strong cash flow. So the issue about sustainability of debt financing is also out of the window.
夏成 CGTN。
For more insight, let's talk to our studio guest. Let me start with you, Professor Zhao. I'd like to start with the size of the attendance this year. In total, 150 countries and 90 international organizations will be represented this time. A much bigger attendance than first Belt and Road Forum for International Cooperation. Do you think it's a sign of rising global enthusiasm and interest in the BRI? And if yes, what's prompting this kind of momentum?
Well, definitely. Well, Belt and Road Initiative, that creates an open, inclusive platform for the global development, especially for the economic cooperation, and that we promote the practical cooperations, and so we draw on more and more consensus for this win-win solutions for the future. So that attracts more and more state leaders, business leaders, and international organizations. Since this proposal match with the global development agenda, with the United Nations Sustainable Development Goals. So that is drawn more and more the common ground for that. So we can see that thousand business leaders gathering, and the state leaders, their delegation, high-level delegations from other countries to participate in this.
Amedio Scapa, let me come to you though, because this is all grabbing international headlines, and of course back home in Africa we're watching this very closely. We've seen about 6 African heads of state attending the forum. There will be 12 sub-forums here at the conference, and there will also be a CEO conference. Which one are you following? How is this all sitting with you?
Well, considering my profession and the interest of Italy, of course, I'm very, very much interested in the forum about the trade and commerce and the new rules for this new global order by respecting what it is already there, but by imagining a new solution for an even more free and more fair global commerce and trade. But let me tell you that I think that this exercise, what is happening in Beijing these days, is not only something linked to economy, to trade, to finance, to digital innovation and so on. I think there is another aspect which is very interesting, which is the Silk Road of cultures. China is a has millennial traditions, as well as Italy too, and so I think that people must connect together, and since they have the possibility to share the same interests, share the same language, share the same habits, and put on the table their cultures and their civilizations, then they can understand better, and this is the soft power that will enhance even more the hard power or the prosperity possibilities that from these 12 forums can be growing up. And as a matter of fact, Italy and China together share the largest, the hugest in the world heritage of UNESCO World Heritage Sites. So we are really two cultural powers too, and I think that sharing culture is a part of sharing economy and trade and commerce and opportunities.
So you think sharing is also a key word of the Belt and Road Initiative. And if we trace back to the origin of this initiative, sharing is also mentioned by President Xi Jinping in 2013 when he first proposed this grand design. Now let's take a look at some specific aspects of this grand gathering. And for more on that, let's cross live to our reporter Cui Huiao. He's at National Convention Center where this opening ceremony will be held, and President Xi Jinping will address the opening of the event. Hello, Huiao, give us an overview of this year's gathering.
Haipaneng, well, the second Belt and Road Forum will be a big step up from the inaugural event compared to the back in 2017, as it is set to bring about high-quality cooperation under the Belt and Road framework. How is it exactly high quality? Well, there are 2 points to be made here. First, if you look at the sheer number of participants, 5,000 delegates are convening here, 37 heads of state and government, and more than 150 representatives, high-level representatives from countries. By the way, many of them are from developed nations such as France, UK, and Germany. They are all here. The attendance and the seniority of these representatives really tell you that this is one of the premium gatherings in the world. Also, I want to mention that the simultaneous translation at this opening ceremony has increased from 16 languages 2 years ago to 20 languages. Also shows that China's friendship network is expanding. The second point is that global enterprises and Western banks are all here. People used to think of BRI as a project and mostly participated by developing countries and Chinese enterprises, but not anymore. Look at companies like Siemens, Standard Chartered, Qualcomm, Dow Chemical. They are all here. They want to take part in the Belt and Road Initiative and share the profit. And and they want to get involved. And this is a big step up from the 2 years ago. The fact that these Fortune 500 companies want to endorse this initiative means that they will bring their personnel, technology, standards, and experience to the BRI project. So more high quality partners are joining this project. Over the time, Belt and Road has developed into the greatest or largest public good in the world. It was first proposed by China, but its profit now is shared by the world. And in less than 20 minutes, all eyes will be on President Xi Jinping's keynote speech at the National Convention Center. If you recall, 2 years ago, President Xi talked a lot about where this idea of BRI come from, how it inherits the ancient Silk Road spirit, which is of openness and inclusion, as well as peace and cooperation. Now, 2 years later, we might hear him talking about how this initiative fits into the new context of globalization 2.0 and global governance, especially how it has injected new impetus to the world economy, as well as bring tangible benefits to local people. Meanwhile, this is also an occasion that President Xi is probably going to use to directly respond to some of the concerns raised by our international partners and friends, such as on debt, transparency, environmental conservation, etc. Of course, going forward, China will shoulder more responsibilities, but joint efforts are still needed by our international partners to make sure that Belt and Road projects will go on with more sustainability. And that is highly anticipated by all of us, because as Xi has put it, Belt and Road project is a project of the century. So we are not just talking about 5 or 10 years down the road, but a project that could last for decades and centuries. That's all from me. Back to you.
All right, a project of the century indeed. Tui Hueo joining us there from the National Convention Center. Our special coverage of the Belt and Road Forum continues in a moment. 6 years on, what is the state of the Belt and Road? And how is the progress?
Where are the challenges? Who is building, connecting, and benefiting?
Our global correspondents bring you personal insights, live business reports,
interviews with the major players, investigation, and analysis.
For comprehensive coverage of the Belt and Road Forum, stay tuned to CGTN.
You're watching a special coverage on the second Belt and Road Forum for International Cooperation on CGTN. The BRI is about connectivity, and shipping by sea is popular for commerce due to low cost and ability to move large volumes. Booming trade between China and Europe has made maritime Silk Road corridor a busy route. Our reporter Zhao Yingfei had a chance to ride on a cargo vessel and check out close business ties among countries along the way.
It takes an entire month to travel by sea from China's port of Ningbo all the way to German's Hamburg. CGTN witnessed the entire journey, following COSCO Shipping's cargo vessel along the Golden Maritime Silk Road.
There's a container coming. Look at that. Ooh.
The vessel, named Virgil, carries exports loaded in some 20,000 containers throughout the South China Sea, the Strait of Malacca, the Gulf of Aden, the Suez Canal, the Mediterranean, and eventually the Atlantic. International ports are committed to providing services with higher productivity. The Port of Singapore built a storage yard on a warehouse roof to improve efficiency.
We know that this is 50 meters above the ground. What's the difference of having a container yard right in the mid-air compared with those on the ground?
Having container in the building actually has certain benefits that you don't have in the open yard. You actually have very good managerial control, operational control, and safety control.
And many machines at the Port of Rotterdam in the Netherlands are controlled by computer programs rather than human hands.
You see them here, so these are the unmanned vehicles. We call them AGVs, automated guided vehicles, and they are guided by our system.
Some ports we visited serve as pivot points for China-Europe land-sea transportation, thanks to strategic connectivity plans under the Belt and Road framework.
We have trouble with the vessel behind me all the way here to the port of Piraeus, Greece. Soon after we dock, the unloading process began. From here, some of the containers will get quote-unquote transferred to trains, and they will be delivered to many parts of Europe via railway.
It's two-way trade. In the past, the vessel had to carry some empty containers on its way back, but that's no longer the case. When Virgo reached Hamburg, it was loaded with Airbus aircraft components. They were shipped to the Chinese port city of Tianjin and assembled by a local operation line. 600 years ago, Chinese Admiral Zheng He sailed from China through the Indian Ocean and brought Chinese silk products to the Arabic world. Today, a much more advanced transportation method has brought countries in the global village closer together. Zhao Yunfei, CGTN.
Quite a journey indeed. And for more on that, let's talk to our reporter Zhao Yunfei is joining us, sharing his long journey on the sea. Hello, Yunfei, tell us more about behind-the-scenes story of that long journey and some of your personal feelings to the momentum of boosting trade between the two continents.
Pandeng, you're right. This is truly an unforgettable journey. We hop onto COSCO Shipping Virgo last summer for a reporting assignment to mark the fifth year China proposed Belt and Road Initiative, and we got some exclusive opportunities to experience seaman's life. And this is a cross-continent journey. You can feel how far apart Asia and Europe are. You can feel it physically because time can tell, but also we can feel how close the continents are from the trade perspective. The maritime ports in which the vessels dock are all located in strategic locations. For example, the ships passing from China, going to Europe and beyond all pass through Singapore, and the Suez Canal divides the continents of Asia and Africa. If the vessels don't take these routes, they would have to swing down by the Cape of Good Hope, and it will cost much more time and money. So that's why nearly 100 vessels travel through the Suez Canal every day, generating service fees of about $5.3 billion. And that is a sizable source for revenue for Egypt. And meanwhile, Chinese investment in European ports has provided many job opportunities. One COSCO Shipping subsidiary company has been managing 2 piers at Piraeus in Greece since 2009. The project is under a 35-year concession agreement, and the company wants to boost the port's overall cargo traffic to over 6 million containers by this year. Like many other Chinese companies in Europe, they committed to localization. Besides a few Chinese staff in leadership roles, all the rest of the team are hired locally. So I asked some workers if they are concerned that Chinese investment may take over the market, and many see the projects as the healthy investments, and the infrastructure developments are really beneficial to the local people. Back to you.
Thank you very much, our reporter Zhao Yunfei there. Beatrice?
Yes, Zhao Yunfei talking about how international maritime trade has boosted trade in the region. Let's now go to our correspondent, Tony Cheng. He's in Bangkok for us there. Tony, Thailand is investing millions of dollars in infrastructural projects to make it a hub of Southeast Asian commerce. Now, one of the key schemes is its Eastern Economic Corridor. Is the work moving along well?
It is. At the moment, the Thailand-China investment park in Rayong is already up and running. It's employing 30,000 staff. It's apparently invested $2.9 billion worth of investment, so it's really doing very well. Ultimately, that is supposed to be part of a chain which will support the high-speed rail link coming down from Kunming through Laos through Thailand ultimately and going on towards Singapore. Now that rail link is well underway in Laos. They estimate that they're going to be they can complete construction in 2021. They've just signed this week the agreement between Laos, China and Thailand to make the connection across the border. The train here in Thailand is moving a little more slowly. Some construction is underway, but the bulk has yet to be decided because of environmental concerns on the route. But they expect that to be completed by about 2023. And that's having a rejuvenating effect across this whole Indo-China region. We've seen in the last week as well a connection between Cambodia and Thailand on a rail link. So I think the hope is ultimately that kind of investment from all of the countries involved with China will bring together an integrated rail network in connection with ASEAN connectivity, which is something the ASEAN nations have been pushing in recent years, to provide a much faster, quicker link, both to the ports on Thailand's eastern seaboard, which is very important for countries like Laos, but also to get that high-speed trail link for tourists, for trade, and bring all sorts of infrastructure projects back into this region. So things are moving. There are some obstacles on the way. Some of that investment, I think, there is a question here in Thailand with our complicated political situation at the moment, whether that's going to happen, given that we don't yet know what kind of a government we have. But certainly the major building blocks are already in place.
Right, Tony joining us there from Bangkok with that update from Thailand. Thank you very much indeed. And still with us in studio, Xiao Xiongxiu. He's the president of the Shandong University of Finance and Economics, and Amedeo Scapa, trade commissioner of the Italian Trade Agency of the Beijing office. Amedeo, let me come to you because under this mega project, though, Chinese enterprises have established about 75 trade and economic cooperation zones in participating countries. What role do you see these zones, though, playing in promoting trade?
Yeah, sure. Well, think about the optimizing the efficiency, especially as the customs. Think about the operations for custom clearance, for example. For sure, it will become faster, more accurate, fair and safe. It has been calculated that under this exercise of the new Belt and Road, the shipment average times will be reduced by 2.2%, and also the trade costs should be reduced by between almost 3.5%. So it's an advantage, of course, for everybody, but not only for the people that are doing the custom clearance operations. Think about, of course, the traders, but think specifically of the impact of these facilitations on the small and medium operators. And I'm coming from a country where SMEs are very spread in our texture, industrial texture, but sometimes they don't have, the financial strength and capability to stay on the global markets. And think about the impact of the reduction of this operational cost and time, especially on the SMEs. This is very important for us. Well, I should say that if Marco Polo was alive, still alive, he should have been taking advantage of the new Silk Road also, not only from the old one, that one that he knew at that time. So,
right,
really
good momentum is
is
building. So we've talked about Europe, we've talked about Thailand, ASEAN countries. Let's talk about Africa, where you are from, Beatrice.
There has been massive impact in Africa. Let me start first by talking about one of the most prestigious for the East African region, and that is the railway, the standard gauge railway, which will be connecting about 6 countries in the East African region, coming through the Maritime Silk Road, which will be through Mombasa. That railway is already well on its way to the second country. It has gone through Kenya, well on its way to the second country in Uganda. It will join South Sudan and then Rwanda and on to the DRC, and from there join the Central African region. So there's been a massive
very encouraging news there.
It's extremely encouraging. And not to forget the Suez Canal, of course, from Egypt as well, which is already well and functioning with the special economic zones. So massive impact from the BRI on African countries there. So let's now hear more about exactly what's going on to Africa. We're going to cross over to CGTN's Girum Chala. He's joining us from the National Convention Center. Girum, of course, you've been in Africa for years, following what's going on the continent. What changes in people's lives have you witnessed since the launch of the Belt and Road Initiative, particularly since Ethiopia is one of the prominent countries on the BRI route?
Beatrice, let's just start from my own country, Ethiopia. As you've said, the Belt and Road Initiative is 6 years down the road. It has brought lots of change to that Eastern Africa country. The 3 decades dream of connecting Ethiopia to Djibouti, because that train, which was built by the French, stopped operations, came to a reality again, and life in that corridor came back after the Belt and Road initiated railway came back to work, and then a new railway line has been opened between Ethiopia and Djibouti. Now, the heart of Ethiopia, from Addis Ababa to Djibouti, there is a connection. People are moving in that corridor, goods and services at the same time. Ethiopia is also enjoying industrial parks across the country thanks to the investments made because of the Belt and Road initiative itself. Let's just pass to the neighboring Kenya. A century-old dream came to a reality when Mombasa and the heart of Kenya, Nairobi, are connected because of that beautiful railway invested by China again. Up north in Egypt, 70% of growth in investment on the infrastructure and energy sector was registered over the last 6 years because of the Belt and Road Initiative. All over Africa, you can see this kinds of marvelous, interesting change because of the Belt and Road Initiative and Chinese investments. Many across Africa will tell you, so far so good, but the best is yet to come.
All right, Girum Chala joining us there with exactly what's going on in Africa with the Belt and Road Initiative there, where African countries are starting to feel the benefits of the BRI. We continue now with our conversation with Amedio Scapa and Xiao Shuzhou in studio. Let me look at what is going on in Europe, Mr. Scapa there, because Europe's interest in the BRI is also growing. Italy recently joined the BRI, but there is still some skepticism from some European countries. Tell us about that.
Well, let me tell you that, sincerely, it's my opinion. I don't think that from the Western countries there is skepticism by default, or they have prejudice. No, not really. Of course, they want to go in this new ocean, in these new waves, but they want to have a safe ship, as Italy wants to have. And as a matter of fact, when Italy signed the MOU with China, we were very care that this MOU was really coherent with the already framework of the EU trade. So since there is no contradiction in this, it's just to empowering more and more what exists. So we didn't have problem to sign it. So I just think that the European countries want to be, as well as Italy, Italy was one of the founders of the European Union, of course, they just want to be more and more reassured that this new global pushing of the global trade and the economic order will be not only free but also fair. So once you really, in the facts, by facts, we will demonstrate that this will be respected, these two conditions will be respected, more and more European, Western countries, developed economies will join the exercise, the Belt and Road Initiative, I think.
So we've been talking about the momentum of the Belt and Road Initiative on the European and African continents. Professor Zhao, we know that all those participating countries are at different levels of development, even for developed countries. So what do you make of the importance of policy connectivity and alignment coordination to implement this grand design?
Well, the Belt Road, as I mentioned, is an open, inclusive platform for for all the countries, whatever the development level, and we are sure since from this open cooperation, you can benefit from this, so that we share these benefits. And so the first should be the policy, or the development strategy coordination, and that it would be have the same goals for the development, and that is open and is a big family, not a small group. I suppose in some country maybe the concern is for this region or this for geopolitical concern. But actually we need an open global economic system. So that's a better. It's the provided it's the new way. So that's the policy coordination is the basis, and of that we have the infrastructure, the connectivity, and this is the facilitate. Then you have to trade, and then you have finance to provide it is for the finance of that, and then who benefit the people. So that you can see the 5 pillars. This is the architecture for this platform.
What about the approaches? What do you make of the utilization of new technology, especially digital technology, in better facilitating all those good ideas and good consensus? For example, the use of technology in faster customs clearance and building trading platforms.
Yes, actually, we use this technology to facilitate the development, and there is a gap. And this gives the opportunities to implement the technology, and this is actually truly inclusive, the development of growth, and everybody can benefit from this. So then we should have this the open mind for coordinate for this, and it's not we talk about the digital better initiative, and then we should have the clean, that's the this sustainable development. So that's I think this will accelerate the path for the modernization, especially for some countries as the initial stage of the industrialization. I think this can speed up. Yeah.
Amedio, I just want to come to you for a final comment there, because as a new entrant to the BRI, what are the prospects though? What does Italy see as the prospects for Italy in its relationship with China here?
Quite clear and very easy to respond to this question. Italy is the second manufacturing power among the European Union countries. We are geographically 37 times smaller than China. We are the 9th exporter in the world, but only the 24th supplier towards China, which is one of the hugest market, maybe the hugest market in the world. So really the answer is we want to boost our trade, to help our SMEs to connect more and in an easier way with the Chinese counterpart. So trade export is focused in a win-win situation. And also let me tell you something about the digital Silk Road and so on, how this could help even the SMEs. It looks like a struggle, a battle between the little David and the big giant Goliath. I don't know if you know this Bible story. But, well, if you have more tools, new tools, you can better face this comparison, these relations. Also because since we are a manufacturing and exporter country, once you have big data, you can use this big data in order to better identify your clients and to better customize your offer, to better know your clients. So it's a huge, huge help, a new help, even for the SMEs industry.
Right, and we know that the building up of the BRI momentum is almost in sync with China's promise to deepen its own reform and opening up. Looking at all those sinking events, for example, the first China International Import-Expo held last November in Shanghai, and of course it will be an annual event, one to come up this November very soon in Shanghai. So what do you make of the BRI and all China's all the activities to fulfill its promise of opening up?
Yeah, sure. And as a matter of fact, during the visit of President Xi Jinping in Rome, was confirmed that Italy will be one of the country partner or country wonder partner in the CIIE exhibition in Shanghai beginning of November, the big fair of import. So we are expecting since now more than 150 Italian companies, not only of course from the very well known made in Italy like food, fashion, furniture, or fun, Ferrari, the 4F, the traditional made in Italy, very well known also in China, but also from SMEs of the innovation. I'm thinking about the healthcare system and technologies and equipment. I'm thinking about the energy and saving energy processes, and I'm thinking generally speaking, on the Italy of innovation, which was expressed by the genius of Leonardo. This year is 500 years from the death of Leonardo. So around Leonardo, we will build up a storytelling of Italy at the second edition in November of the China International Import-Export, with at least 150 Italian companies coming from that occasion for increasing the bilateral trade and cooperation with Chinese counterparts.
Professor Chow, let me just come to you on the question of opening up China's opening up process as well, because the BRI is also about trade, and we in Africa are looking at the kind of trade that Africa and China will do together for mutual benefit. How do you see the convergence, though, of the BRI and China's opening up?
Well, the BRI is a core part of China's overall open up. Actually, the new stage on the new high level, open up to create the open global economy system, and that we integrate China's domestic market. So now it's the world's largest consumption in the market, and with the global market, and that provides the opportunity for the whole world to benefit from the China development, and also China can benefit from these openness and cooperation. So that is the expansion effects for the global economy, especially in the time of the global the economy recovery, when we together for the global sluggish of the economy and the financial crisis. So that's very important, and that is the Belt Road to give this new driving force for this development, and this also help for China the new called high quality developments. You can see with China we have maintained our the foreign investment law, and that's this we institutionally guarantee the openness. And then I think there will be a new driving force but not for China, but also for the world.
So let's talk more about investment, Mr. Scarpa. How's the momentum of those investors in Western Europe and highly industrialized countries with technological advantage? Do you think this could be good news for them to do better investment in China?
Yeah, I was saying before that the proof, the reality, the facts will determine how much the so-called developed countries and Western European economies will join the exercise. I call it exercise in a diplomatic term, but I mean the BRI.
Sure.
And exactly the protection of IPR and the new investment law are really fundamental steps in this direction. So the more guarantee you have about the second F, not only free but fair, also in terms of protection, the invention, the copyright, and of course protection of your investments in both senses. Chinese investment in Europe or developed countries, and Western, let's say, country investments in China. The more you have this kind of tools, of laws, of rules, of proof, and the more the people will be confident on the new BRI.
So let's be a little bit more specific. For your country, what would be the main focus areas of investors from Italy in China?
Let me tell you that we are interested in bilateral participation and cooperation in China and in Italy, but also on third countries along the Belt and Road, for example Africa, or for example Central and Eastern Europe. This is natural because as our Prime Minister Conte says, just landing in Beijing right now to join Mr. Xi Jinping and so on. So he said that Italy is a natural bridge, geographical bridge between North Africa and Central and East and North Europe. So of course a bridge is to put together people, and I'm expecting that investment from Chinese company to Italy and from Italy to China, but joint investment, Chinese, Sino-Italian investment in third countries, including Africa and Eastern and Central Europe, will be improved. As example, I'll just tell you that, for example, already this exercise is on the field in the sector of energy infrastructure, specifically in Georgia, Kazakhstan, Azerbaijan, and also Egypt, talking about Africa. We think there is another field on which win-win we can cooperate. As I said before, we are a manufacturing power. We have the so-called 4.0 revolution. You have the new program of high manufacturing China, high manufacturing level China, and so on, because China wants to go up on the global change of the value. So by sharing this experience, not grappling, but sharing together, we can share the benefits. So I think that manufacturing, in addition to infrastructure and energy, will be the new coming field on which we can prove our friendships and cooperation. And as a matter of fact, just in this month, we are going to land a new project, the Ministry of Economic Development, together with the NDRC, Chinese, a new project which is feeding Italian startups in China, in Shanghai, with Chinese Technology Center. So there will be Chinese incubator for the new Leonardos, the new inventors, you know. So this is a reality. This is not just vision.
A lot to look forward to. And as we're talking about this, you're watching live footage from the National Convention Center, where the opening ceremony of the second Belt and Road Forum for International Cooperation is about to officially start, and Chinese President Xi Jinping will deliver a keynote speech during that event. So, Professor Zhao, let's follow up a little bit on what Mr. Scarpa just mentioned, third-party market cooperation. How does that work, and give us some successful examples so far?
Well, yesterday I watched the TV. It's that China, India, they cooperate in Russia. That's the within these the BRICS, and China. I just come back from Serbia, and we have the project in Serbia. You know, China. You know, a company from my home. You know, the Shandong province, the Linglong, Thai International Corporation. They cooperate there, and they bring the suppliers together to Serbia, and then to form the local production network for the Thai, and that is expand to EU market. So that's so this is the good model for the international cooperation and for the internationalization. So then this really bring the opportunities. It's not just one company do everything. So that's you know, the leading companies, they can bring together the supplier, even the suppliers, and they put together and have the local firms to work together. So this is truly the win-win cooperation. We have lots of such kind of the models. That's in Ethiopia, and Italian companies come to the industrial park. You know, designed and developed by Chinese firms, and then with the local partners, and then produce the shoes and then re-export back to Italy and then to Europe. So this is a very good model, actually.
I do want to come up to you as well with the question of sharing the benefits, as you're putting it there. And when you talk about sharing the benefits, many developing countries are going to be looking at the short-term and the long-term benefits of the BRI. Let's look at African countries, for instance. 37 African countries have now, signed the BRI agreement with China. In the short term, though, what do you see at the immediate short-term benefits of the BRI for these countries? Well,
immediate short term, that's they have their project. They have create the jobs, and then you offer the tax revenue to the local governments, and so government can use these to play this role as a government, and then so this is short term, and then in long term, that's there is the process what we call it the international technology transfer. So then the kind of
so talking about this, let's cross live to the National Convention Center. You're watching live footage from that venue. The second Belt and Road Forum for International Cooperation is about to start again. This is live footage from Beijing's National Convention Center.
Your Excellencies, Heads of State and Government, Your Excellencies, high-level representatives, Your Excellencies, Heads of international organizations, ladies and gentlemen, friends, good morning. As a line of a classical Chinese poem goes, spring and autumn are lovely seasons when friends get together to climb up mountains and write poems. On this beautiful spring day, it gives me great pleasure to have you with us here at the second Belt and Road Forum for International Cooperation. On behalf of the Chinese government and people, and in my own name, I extend a very warm welcome to you all. 2 years ago, it was here that we met for the first Belt and Road Forum for International Cooperation, where we drew a blueprint of cooperation to enhance policy, infrastructure, trade, financial, and people-to-people connectivity. Today, we are once again meeting here with you, friends from across the world. I look forward to scaling new heights with you and enhancing our partnership. Together, we will create an even brighter future for Belt and Road cooperation. Dear colleagues and friends, the joint pursuit of the Belt and Road Initiative aims to enhance connectivity and practical cooperation. It's about jointly meeting the various challenges and risks confronting mankind and delivering win-win outcomes and common development. Thanks to the joint efforts of all of us involved in this initiative, a general connectivity framework consisting of 6 corridors, 6 connectivity routes, and multiple countries and ports has been put in place. A large number of cooperation projects have been launched, and the decisions of the first BRF have been smoothly implemented. More than 150 countries and international organizations have signed agreements on Belt and Road cooperation with China. The complementarity between the BRI and the development plans or cooperation initiatives of international and regional organizations such as the United Nations, ASEAN, the African Union, the European Union, the Eurasian Economic Union, and between the BRI and the development strategies of the participating countries has been enhanced. From the Eurasian continent to Africa, the Americas, and Oceania, Belt and Road cooperation has opened up new space for global economic growth, produced new platforms for international trade and investment, and offered new ways for improving global economic governance. Indeed, this initiative has helped improve people's lives in countries involved and created more opportunities for common prosperity. What we have achieved amply demonstrates that Belt and Road cooperation has both generated new opportunities for the development of all participating countries and opened up new horizons for China's development and opening up. An ancient Chinese philosopher observed that plants with strong roots grow well, and efforts with the right focus will ensure success. The Belt and Road cooperation embraces the historical trend of economic globalization, responds to the call for improving the global governance system, and meets people's longing for a better life. Going ahead, we should focus on priorities and project execution, move forward results-oriented implementation, and jointly promote high-quality Belt and Road cooperation. We need to be guided by the principle of extensive consultation, joint contribution, and shared benefits. We need to act in the spirit of multilateralism, pursue cooperation through consultation, and keep all parties motivated. We may, by engaging in bilateral, trilateral, and multilateral cooperation, fully tap into the strengths of all participants. Just as the Chinese proverb goes, a tower is built when soil on earth accumulates, and a river is formed when streams come together. We need to pursue open, green, and clean cooperation. The Belt and Road is not an exclusive club and aims to promote green development. We may launch green infrastructure projects, make green investment, and provide green financing to protect the earth which we all call home. In pursuing Belt and Road cooperation, everything should be done in a transparent way, and we should have zero tolerance for corruption.
The
Beijing Initiative for Clean Silk Road has been launched, which represents our strong commitment to transparency and clean governance in pursuing Belt and Road cooperation. We need to pursue high-standard cooperation to improve people's lives and promote sustainable development. We will adopt widely accepted rules and standards and encourage participating companies to follow general international rules and standards in project development, operation, procurement, and tendering and bidding. The laws and regulations of participating countries should also be respected. We need to take a people-centered approach, give priority to poverty alleviation and job creation, to see that the joint pursuit of Belt and Road cooperation would deliver true benefits to the people of participating countries and contribute to their social and economic development. We also need to ensure that the commercial and fiscal sustainability of all projects, so that they will achieve the intended goals as planned. Dear colleagues and friends, connectivity is vital to advancing Belt and Road cooperation. We need to promote a global partnership for connectivity to achieve common development and prosperity. I'm confident that as we work closely together, we will transcend geographical distance and embark on a path of win-win cooperation. Infrastructure is the bedrock of connectivity, while the lack of infrastructure has held up the development of many countries. High quality, sustainable, resilient, affordable, inclusive, and accessible infrastructure projects can help countries fully leverage their resource endowment, better integrate into the global supply, industrial, and value chains, and realize interconnected development. To this end, China will continue to work with other parties to build a connectivity network centering on economic corridors such as the new Eurasian land bridge, supplemented by major transportation routes like the China-Europe Railway Express and the new land-sea corridor and information expressway, and reinforced by major railway, port and pipeline projects. We will continue to make good use of the Belt and Road Special Lending Scheme, the Silk Road Fund, and various special investment funds, develop Silk Road theme bonds, and support the Multilateral Cooperation Center for Development Finance in its operation. We welcome the participation of multilateral and national financial institutions in BRI investment and financing, and we encourage third market cooperation. With the involvement of multiple stakeholders, we can surely deliver benefits to all. The flow of goods, capital, technology, and people will power economic growth and create broad space for it. As the Chinese saying goes, the ceaseless inflow of rivers makes the ocean deep. However, were such inflow to be cut, the ocean, however big, would eventually dry up. We need to promote trade and investment liberalization and facilitation, say no to protectionism, and make economic globalization more open, inclusive, balanced, and beneficial to all. To this end, we will enter into negotiation with more countries to conclude high-standard free trade agreements and strengthen cooperation in customs, taxation, and audit oversight by setting up the Belt and Road Initiative tax administration cooperation mechanism and accelerating international collaboration on the mutual recognition of authorized economic operaters. We have also formulated the guiding principles on financing the development of the Belt and Road and published the debt sustainability framework for participating countries of the BRI to provide guidance for BRI financing cooperation. In addition, the second China International Import Expo will be held this year in November in Shanghai to build an even bigger platform for other parties to access the Chinese market. Innovation boosts productivity. It makes companies competitive, and it makes countries strong. We need to keep up with the trend of the fourth industrial revolution, jointly seize opportunities created by digital networked and smart development, explore new technologies and new forms and models of business, foster new growth drivers, and explore new development pathways, and build the digital Silk Road and the Silk Road of innovation. China will continue to carry out the Belt and Road Science, Technology and Innovation Cooperation Action Plan and will work with our partners to pursue 4 major initiatives, namely the Science and Technology People-to-People Exchange Initiative, the Joint Laboratory Initiative, the Science Park Cooperation Initiative, and the Technology Transfer Initiative. We will actively implement the Belt and Road Initiative Talents Exchange Program and will, in the coming 5 years, offer 5,000 opportunities for exchange, training, and cooperative research for talents from China and other BRI participating countries. We will also support companies of various countries in jointly advancing ICT infrastructure building to upgrade cyber connectivity.
Imbalance in development is the greatest imbalance confronting today's world. In the joint pursuit of the BRI, we must always take a development-oriented approach and see that the vision of sustainable development underpins project selection, implementation, and management. We need to strengthen international development cooperation so as to create more opportunities for developing countries, help them eradicate poverty, and achieve sustainable development. In this connection, China and its partners have set up the Belt and Road Sustainable Cities Alliance and the BRI, International Green Development Coalition, formulated the green investment principles for the Belt and Road development and launched the Declaration on Accelerating the Sustainable Development Goals for Children through Shared Development. We have set up the BRI Environmental Big Data Platform. We will continue to implement the Green Silk Road Envoys program and work with relevant countries to jointly implement the Belt and Road South-South Cooperation Initiative on climate change. We will also deepen cooperation in agriculture, health, disaster mitigation, and water resources. And we will enhance development cooperation with the United Nations to narrow the gap in development. We need to build bridges for exchanges and mutual learning among different cultures, deepen cooperation in education, science, culture, sports, tourism, health, and archaeology. Strengthen exchanges between parliaments, political parties, and non-governmental organizations, and exchanges between women, young people, and people with disabilities in order to facilitate multifaceted people-to-people exchanges. To this end, we will, in the coming 5 years, invite 10,000 representatives of political parties, think tanks, and non-governmental organizations from Belt and Road participating countries to visit China. We will encourage and support extensive cooperation on livelihood projects among social organizations of participating countries, conduct a number of environmental protection and anti-corruption training courses, and deepen human resources development cooperation in various areas. We will continue to run the Chinese government scholarship Silk Road program, host the International Youth Forum on Creativity and Heritage along the Silk Roads, and the Chinese Bridge summer camps. We will also put in place new mechanisms such as the Belt and Road Studies Network and the Belt and Road News Alliance to draw inspiration and pool our strengths for greater synergy. Dear colleagues and friends, this year marks the 70th anniversary of the founding of the People's Republic of China. 7 decades ago, through the arduous struggle carried out by several generations of Chinese people and under the leadership of the Communist Party of China, New China was founded. We Chinese have since stood up and held our future in our own hands. Over the past 7 decades, we in China have, based on its realities, constantly explored the way forward through practices and have succeeded in following the path of socialism with Chinese characteristics. Today, China has reached a new historical starting point. However, we are keenly aware that with all we have achieved, there are still many mountains to scale and many shores to navigate. We will continue to advance along the path of socialism with Chinese characteristics, deepen sweeping reforms, pursue quality development, and expand opening up. We remain committed to peaceful development and will endeavor to build a community with a shared future for mankind. Going forward, China will take a series of major reform and opening up measures and make stronger systemic and structural moves to boost higher quality opening up. First, we will expand market access for foreign investment in more areas. Fair competition boosts business performance and creates prosperity. China has already adopted the management model of pre-establishment national treatment with a negative list and will continue to slash the negative list. We will work for the all-round opening up of modern services, manufacturing and agriculture, and will allow the operation of foreign-controlled or wholly foreign-owned businesses in more sectors. We will plan new pilot free trade zones and explore at a faster pace the opening of a free trade port. We will accelerate the adoption of supporting regulations to ensure full implementation of the foreign investment law. We will promote supply-side structural reform through fair competition and open cooperation, and will phase out backward and excessive production capacity in an effective way to enhance the performance of the supply system. Second, we will intensify efforts to enhance international cooperation in intellectual property protection. Without innovation, there will be no progress. Full intellectual property protection will not only ensure the lawful rights and interests of Chinese and foreign companies, it is also crucial to promoting China's innovation-driven and quality development. China will spare no effort to foster a business environment that respects the value of knowledge. We will fully improve the legal framework for protecting intellectual property. Step up law enforcement and enhance protection of lawful rights and interests of foreign intellectual property owners. Stop arbitrary technology transfer. Improve protection of business secrets and crack down hard on violations of intellectual property in accordance with law. China will strengthen cooperation with other countries in intellectual property protection, create an enabling environment for innovation, and promote technological exchanges with other countries on basis of market principles and rule of law. Third, we will increase the import of goods and services on an even larger scale. China is both a global factory and a global market. With the world's largest and fastest growing middle-income population, China has a vast potential for increasing consumption. To meet our people's ever-growing material and cultural needs and give our consumers more choices and benefits, we will further lower tariffs and remove various non-tariff barriers. We will steadily open China's market wider to quality products from across the world. China does not seek trade surplus. We want to import more competitive quality agricultural products, manufactured goods, and services to promote balanced growth of China's foreign trade. Fourth, we will more effectively engage in international macroeconomic policy coordination. A globalized economy calls for global governance. China will strengthen macro policy coordination with other major economies to generate a positive spillover and jointly contribute to robust, sustainable, balanced, and inclusive global growth. China will not resort to the beggar-thy-neighbor practice of RMB devaluation. On the contrary, we will continue to improve the exchange rate regime, see that the market plays a decisive role in resource allocation, and keep the RMB exchange rate basically stable at an adaptive and equilibrium level. These steps will help ensure the steady growth of the global economy. Rules and credibility underpin the effective functioning of the international governance system. They are the prerequisites for growing international economic and trade relations. China is an active supporter and participant of WTO reform and will work with others to develop international economic and trade rules of higher standards. Fifth, we will work harder to ensure the implementation of opening up related policies. We Chinese have a saying that honoring a promise carries the weight of gold. We are committed to implementing multilateral and bilateral economic and trade agreements reached with other countries. We will strengthen the building of a government of rule of law and good faith. A binding mechanism for honoring international agreements will be put in place. Laws and regulations will be revised and improved in keeping with the need to expand opening up. We will see that governments at all levels operate in a well-regulated way when it comes to issuing government permits and conducting market oversight. We will overhaul and abolish unjustified regulations, subsidies, and practices that impede fair competition and distort the market. We will treat all enterprises and business entities equally and foster an enabling business environment based on market operation and governed by law. These measures to expand opening up are a choice China has made by itself to advance its reform and opening up. It will promote high-quality economic development, meet the people's desire for a better life, and contribute to world peace, stability, and development. We hope that other countries will also create an enabling environment of investment, treat Chinese enterprises, students, and scholars as equals, and provide a fair and friendly environment for them to engage in normal international exchanges and cooperation. We are convinced that a more open China will further integrate itself into the world and deliver greater progress and prosperity for both China and the world at large. Dear colleagues and friends, let us join hands to sow the seeds of cooperation, harvest the fruits of development, bring greater happiness to our people, and make our world a better place for all. In conclusion, I wish the second Belt and Road Forum a full success. Thank you.
That was Chinese President Xi Jinping's keynote speech at the opening ceremony of the second Belt and Road Forum for International Cooperation. In that speech, the President Xi Jinping looked back at the achievements made in the past 2 years since the first such forums was held, and also he looked forward, raised specific proposals in areas like connectivity, infrastructure, trade and corruption, technology and environmental protection. And more importantly, this year also marks the 70th anniversary of the founding of the People's Republic of China. Talking about further reform and opening up, President Xi Jinping also raised 5 key aspects of future implementation of reform and opening up. And for more insight, let's talk to our studio guest. So, Professor Zhao, let's start with the Belt and Road Initiative's future development. President Xi Jinping starting by raising the key concept of clean Silk Road. What do you make of that?
Well, this clean means this for the developments, and well, it's inclusive, it's transparent, and anti-corruption. It's lots of projects that's be in the past the development project by some countries, and then they have a not very good record, but. Actually, for the Belt and Road Initiative, this will be benefit for all the people. That should be transparent, and we'll bring this under this the guidelines for this, and so meets the high standard for the development, and so improve efficiency. So then the guarantee that everybody can benefit from that, not just a small group as the cost of the others. So that's the clean, and also the high levels, clean and green, and we can talk later there.
Yes, of course, we'll continue this discussion very soon.
Well, Girum Chala has been following President Xi Jinping's address. Let's now go to Girum Chala. He's at the National Convention Center. Girum, a lot of issues there raised by President Xi in his speech. Of course, for the African countries, he has talked about the imbalance in development, and African countries are going to be looking at this very closely. Give us an insight. What are your thoughts on President Xi Jinping's speech?
Bridges, first of all, President Xi Jinping's speech could be called historic. He has painted a picture of what the world is going to look like under the Belt and Road Initiative, and once sexes are registered step by step. President Xi Jinping, for example, was talking about scaling new heights and a brighter future to the world. He wants to create under this Belt and Road Initiative, with all stakeholders under it, of course, a place where there's going to be a fair competition. He said there's zero tolerance for protectionism. The world should be a place where shared values and brighter futures should be registered, and for developing world, it's also an initiative that can take poor countries out of poverty and show them new heights of growth. Beatrice, as you understand, more than 150 countries, as President Xi Jinping was also talking about, and organizations are part of this Belt and Road Initiative. And this is an initiative that has been endorsed by organizations like the United Nations, the African Union, ASEAN, and others. That makes it a globally accepted initiative that is going to change the history of the whole world when things are going to be registered step by step, as I was saying earlier. President Xi, by the way, was also talking about the importance of zero tolerance for corruption. If we're going to create a new world, a world where a new order is going to be seen, defeating poverty, registering new economic developments and others, we need to also fight corruption. He talked about technology transfer. He talked about how China is going to be open for foreign investment. He talked about the upcoming of the import expo, which is going to be held in Shanghai, and that one is going to allow developing world like African states, for example, to start exporting goods and services to mainland China and other places. This is a historic by itself. So in general terms, we can say that President Xi Jinping's speech on this second Belt and Road Forum is historic. This is something that has laid the foundation for most of the things that could be expected under this Belt and Road Initiative, which, by the way, is showing progress already over the last 6 years. We have seen lots of change in the African continent, in Asia, and other parts of the world. Many European states, by the way, are already part of this Belt and Road Initiative, including Italy, Portugal, and others. This is a historical moment for the world, and President Xi Jinping literally spoke about what the world will look like under the Belt and Road Initiative. Really interesting.
Right, Girum Chala joining us there from the National Convention Center, where he is keeping tabs on all the developments there for us.
Yeah, keep focusing on President Xi Jinping's keynote speech that was just delivered. He said, he also reiterated the goals of the Belt and Road Initiative in that speech. Take a listen.
We need to be guided by the principle of extensive consultation, joint contribution, and shared benefits. We need to act in the spirit of multilateralism, pursue cooperation through consultation, and keep all parties motivated. We may, by engaging in bilateral, trilateral, and multilateral cooperation, fully tap into the strengths of all participants.
Well, gentlemen, what's the key message you're getting from President Xi Jinping's words we just listened, Professor?
Well, Professor Xi mentioned that the principles for the intensive consultation, well, these contributions and the shift the benefits. That means this is not China's work job. Actually, it's a big family. We work together. So all parties should be motivated, and then will benefit through our contributions. So at different levels, and these are the bilateral, the multilateral, and global. This is the openness. Is openness and inclusiveness.
Now let's get more from President Xi Jinping's speech. The president also has pledged that the Belt and Road Initiative will be transparent.
We may launch green infrastructure projects, make green investment, and provide green financing to protect the earth which we all call home. In pursuing Belt and Road cooperation, everything should be done in a transparent way, and we should have zero tolerance for corruption.
Amedio Scapa, to you on that point though, because President Xi Jinping did mention the BRI South-South cooperation on climate change. Green economy is also quite a big pointer here. Your thoughts on that? How strong is this?
I was really touched when he said, the future is in our hands. So this is a very strong call for responsibility, for a global responsibility. It's not just a south-south, east-west, north-south. It's a global, again, exercise and call for responsibility. Because we do live, of course, in a world with limited resources. So we must join our effort and share our experience also in order not to do the mistakes that we did wherever in the world in the past. So taking care of the environment, promoting sustainable process by creating an additional unit of output. This means to be responsible. And you can do it if you think about your tradition, your experience, and if you think also about the new solution. So he talked about tradition and innovation. From a great past, you can have a brighter future by respecting people and respecting the environment. This is a very, very touching point, I think, and he underlined also that this can be done under the framework, inside the framework also, multilateral and regional that already exists. So it's not something alternative to the system that is there. It's something that improved that the system is already there. And at the end, I should say that I should bring with me 2 P from Mr. President's speech. The first P, of course, is about prosperity, when he talked about lower protectionism, lower tariffs, and so on, considering that China is responsible for 25%, a quarter of the global growth rate. So imagine the impact of a higher trade, higher GDP of China with the rest of the world, or imagine the negative impact that the struggle with the commercial struggle are causing not only to the interested countries but also to the whole world. So the impact of what happens in China is very huge, very big, because you express a quarter of the global total growth rate. But on the other side, the second P, I think, is a P very linked to peace, because by promoting a free and fair world, it means that you are promoting a concept through which where the goods don't cross. The soldiers and the armies will do it. So if you promote a free trade, a fair trade, then you are going to stop the army or to create obstacles to the battles of the armies.
Talking about that, let's focus on China's efforts. 5 major initiatives raised by President Xi Jinping in terms of China's own reform and development in the next stage. For example, he starts by promising that China will widen access for foreign investment. How important is this promise at this crucial juncture of time?
Well, this is a fundamental change for the regulation and for both for the regulation of foreign investment, and then also encourage the inflow of the foreign investments. That's the pre-establishment, national treatment, and adapt to the negative list, and not we not narrow the list, and to that, so we open more widely, including manufacturing, the service, and in the past some very sensitive sectors. Now we open it. For example,
talking about this earlier, we talked about the newly adopted foreign investment law, and in his speech, President Xi Jinping further promised that China will guarantee the enforcement of this law, even at local levels, right?
Yeah, yes, central level and the local levels, and that's we are further to recheck some local regulations. If they have the country with the law, that will be phased out. And also China will also will promise to further lower the tariff and so continue to lower the tariff. So that encourages the investment. So
better trade facilitation.
Yes.
Thank you very much, gentlemen. And that's it for this edition of a special live coverage on the opening ceremony of the second Belt and Road Forum for International Cooperation. I'm Pan Dong in Beijing.
And I'm Beatrice Marshall in Beijing. But do remember, of course, that our continuing coverage on the Belt and Road Initiative continues here on CGTN.
Thank you very much for watching. Bye for now.
Goodbye for now.
春秋作家日，登高赋新诗，推动各方各施所长，各尽所能。通过双边合作、三方合作，顺应经济全球化的历史潮流，顺应全球治理体系变革的时代要求。